wizard walks by, casting his shadow, weaving his spell. Long gray clothes, twinkling bell. Never talking, just keeps walking, causing his magic.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh my gosh, have I been silent this whole time? I think I have been. Oh my God, how embarrassing. So basically just, you're going to be quizzed on everything that I just said. And I just gave out the secret to longevity but now, I can't remember what I said. So anyway, thanks, bye-bye. One of the things I'm going to be sharing with you is not to take yourself too seriously. So I'm not going to take myself all that seriously right now. Okay, so we're going to be talking about longevity. We're going to be talking about health. We're going to be talking about how to use shamanic principles in order to be healthy and live a long life. And as I was saying earlier, while you guys were screaming at me, I can't hear you. I was talking with my teacher not too long ago, and he has a phrase that he uses, which I agree with, and that is, chronological age is meaningless. Now, I've got my ideas of why that is, but I once again asked him about that, and he elaborated on his understanding, which is that as long as you have a flexible spine, you are young. And he himself is a yoga master, so you might assume that that's the kind of thing a yoga master would say. I accept that. I also have all kinds of other tips and tricks and feelings about what it is that allows you to stay healthy and how to live a long life and quality of life. Let's put that in there. There's a lot of people that may live a long life, but the quality of their life is horrible. If I have anything to say about it, I'm going to have high quality of healthy, mobile living right up until the very end, So I'm going to share with you my understandings about that. So before I do that, since I've already taken up so much of your time with silence, I am going to go ahead and just get into, I have a list here of things. By the way, if you didn't hear me say it, this is going to be my last live video for the next couple of weeks. I'm going on a trip to Australia, a solo surf trip. I'm taking myself to Queensland, and I'm going to bounce around what's called the Sunshine Coast up there. There's a world-famous surf spot, and we're just getting into the season for the monsoon season where the waves start to pick up there. So wish me luck. Hopefully there will be some fun waves. So at the very least, I get to hike in some national forest and just not do anything for a couple of weeks. So let's get started. So the first thing that, let me just throw out there, if somebody has a guess, and you don't have to write it. I don't want to have to look at your guess, but just in your own mind, if you have a guess on what you think the first thing is going to be on my list for what you need in order to live a long, healthy life. Drum roll. Most important thing, besides having a flexible spine, besides energy work, besides meditation, besides shamanism and ritual, besides rest and having love and being emotionally mature and healthy. The most important thing, in my belief, that goes before any of it, is determining what your soul desire is. It's really not a determination. It's not like a test. It's always there. And they're either people who have emotional and psychological blocks to their own soul and those who don't. And there's all kinds of people in between. And depending on how much block there is between you and your soul desire, that will let you know how easy it is. Little kids, you ask them, what is it you want to be when you grow up? They know exactly. They have the answer. Now, that will usually change, but that's the idea. Knowing your soul desire, if you have to determine it, like many of us do, then that means that you have a conflict, and most of us do. have a conflict. And so determining what your soul desire is and then facing the inevitable karmic conflicts that will arise as you then take action towards that soul desire. So if you don't know what that is, ask me and I'll be happy to tell you about it. I won't take up your time to do that here. If you want to find out what that is, you can go onto my channel and or onto Amazon.com or michaelwilliamdenny.com and look for the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That is a book. As I was writing that, I was hearing myself say, you should make a video about that, like just a video on that, and then I can just point people to the video. An in-depth discussion about that kind of stuff. But anyway, so that's the first thing that I recommend that people do. I recommend that if you are able to determine what your soul desire is, that thing, that one thing at any given moment in your life that gives you the greatest happiness, and go after that, that is an absolute panacea for everything. That will heal you physically, it will heal you emotionally, it will connect you spiritually, it will burn away your karmas, it will give you psychological maturity. It is the most important thing. Everything else that I teach, while they are extremely important, are second to that. Because when you are connected to your soul, remember you are your soul. Even though we have three selves here, I won't get into that. You have a self in your navel, you have a self up here in your third eye area, and you have your soul, which lives in your heart center. You are your soul. And your upper center and your lower center are focused on this. This is the star of the show, your soul. And so when you are connected to your soul being infinite, the whole reason you came here was to experience this from a soul level, then you have infinite power. You have infinite resources, including infinite life force energy and infinite health. So if I talk about some things here, like if I tell you to refrain from doing some of those things I'm asking you to refrain from are things that you use to divert yourself from the conflict that arises when you seek your soul desire. And we do seek that. And the energy that it takes to deflect you away from your soul desire causes disease, old age. Look, it's not impossible to be my age. This isn't the greatest light in the world, but it's not impossible to be my age and to be as young and healthy as I am. It's not an impossibility. There's plenty of people out there, 55 years old, that are this healthy. But there's at least as many, if not more, that look like hell when they get to be my age. I mean, you put them next to me and you can't, 10, 20 years older they look. And it's not because that there's anything magical about me. There are some things I've done which have contributed, but it's because if we ask them questions, we're going to find out that they have probably taken actions and lived lifestyles that were in conflict with their soul. That they were doing things and participating in things, including the way that they thought, that were designed to divert you from the challenge of facing what your soul wants to do. The energy that it takes to disconnect you from your soul, that energy burns you up. Number one, you're unplugged from infinity. And number two, it takes a huge amount of consciously you're not even aware you're doing it, a huge amount of unconscious, deliberate effort to divert yourself away from that soul. That's what makes you old and sick and unhappy and everything. So like I said, we'll talk about that if you really want to, but go look at the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You can find it on my channel. You can find it in book form here, michaelwilliamdenny.com. So now let me get into some specifics here. All right, so determine your soul desire, your soul purpose, which are two different things, and take action towards them. That's number one. Number two, this is not going to be a popular one, and it's going to be a lot of people. See, I really don't think about how I live my life. I just do what I want, what feels good and what I want. And as a result of that, this is one of the things that I do. Abstain from all recreational chemicals. That includes caffeine, nicotine, vaping. I know people vape and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm not smoking," or "There's no nicotine in it," but it's harsh. It ain't good for you. Now, this isn't a moral thing. I could care less what you do. If you want to go do it for fun and you know you've chosen to do it, go do it. I'm telling you, in terms of physical health, I would abstain from all that stuff. Now, remember I said earlier that if I ever give you a suggestion to abstain from something, whatever that something is something that you are doing in order to divert yourself from the conflict that you have about going after your soul desire. And, forgive me for being simplistic, but that's really all that life is. Being born in a human body, there's really only one thing that's happening. And that one thing is your soul says, "Hey, this is what I want to do. It's fun. I want to go do this certain thing." And you either say yes or no or maybe or I'll try or later or let's not think about it. That's really all that it is. It doesn't matter if we're talking about relationships, if we're talking about, success, what you accomplish in life, discipline, lack of discipline, all that. By the way, when we're on this subject, I suppose I have to say that there has to be something called a lack of discipline and laziness, but I haven't found it yet. What I've found is that people who think that they're lazy, or think, maybe if you look at their life, you think, "Oh my God, that person's so lazy. They just don't do anything." What I've found is that there really isn't such a thing as laziness. It's that the conflict is so great within them that whenever they think about taking action towards something, the conflict is so painful that it shuts them down. And they don't do anything. They actually put far more effort into doing nothing than it takes to just get up and go do something that you want to do. So I want to get rid of that idea, and that has certainly been true for me. I really, maybe I need to get out more. Maybe I need to get a social life. But I spend a lot of time analyzing myself, sitting with myself, and really trying to feel what is going on. And that's the determination that I came for myself, which is why, as I told you earlier, there really isn't, I'm not really trying all that hard. I do what I want. There are some things that are challenging for me to get up off my ass and do. But the only reason I do it is because I have enough experience to know that not doing it is more painful and takes more energy than to just do it. Like doing these videos. Today I could have given myself the excuse that, "Hey, I'm leaving on a trip tomorrow, and I've got all kinds of things to do and packing and all that." But the truth is that I've done a lot of that packing. My boards are ready to go. I've got pretty much everything ready to go. It's like I just got to maybe get a couple of things from the store, throw some things in the bag, and I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I mean, I hope, I'm going to show up and they're going to take my board bag, and, I hope I'm not going to be stranded. But, those kinds of things, I need to make a phone call. I'm lazy about that. Anyway, I'm getting off the subject here. So when it comes to things like abstaining from all recreational chemicals, that's not work for me. It's because, that stuff just, it doesn't, and here's the thing about recreational chemicals, if you're not aware of it. I sound like such a grandfather. Don't make the same mistakes I made. But it's really what it comes down to, is that I spent a lot of years doing energy work, a lot of years, from my mid-20s, up until now. And there was a time in my life not too long ago where I was in a lot of physical pain due to unresolved challenges toward following my soul desire. And, somebody talked me into some certain, hey, this is medicine, try this. And I looked at it and I did research on it and there's all this stuff. And it can also be a recreational chemical, and I hated it. I hated it. And this was something I loved when I was in high school. I hated it. The reason why I hated it is because when you do real energy work, qigong.thunderwizard.com, if you haven't, go check that out. When you do real energy work, what happens is that your brain releases all kinds of really wonderful feel-good chemicals like dopamine and all kinds of other wonderful chemicals. The same chemicals that are squeezed out of your brain forcibly when you do things like THC, alcohol, and basic, cocaine and, ecstasy and whatever else. Whatever else that you do recreationally to get yourself out there that you think makes you spiritual, it's forcing your brain to squeeze out all of these chemicals. And that's what the high is. And what ends up happening when you do real energy work, real high-level energy work, that starts to happen naturally, and you get really high, but it feels really good. Now, the difference is that recreational chemicals, what they do is they divert you from the challenges, which is why people do them. They're a false path, and people think they're having a spiritual experience, but what's really going on is they're being disconnected from their emotional challenges, and they feel like things are good. Now, what ends up happening when you do real energy work is that you get all of those same feel-good chemicals. You have the same out-of-body experiences. I mean, the stuff that I experienced when I was hardcore into this stuff is nothing. I mean, it's far beyond anything that I experienced with recreational chemicals in the day. So that's why I say I don't have to work at it. If I want that experience, I can go do the energy work and I'll have that experience. But you end up connecting to your soul. You end up connecting to life force energy. You don't end up forcibly, exploding it out of your aura, which is what happens when you ingest a chemical. Any kind of violence that is done to you as a result of a chemical coming in and forcing an experience on you, that's violence. And there's nothing wrong with it. Again, under the right circumstances, with the right powerful shaman who will do the chants and will do the singing and will protect you, then it has its place. You may find, like me, that you don't need to do that. And I recommend doing the energy work so that you don't have to do that to have that kind of experience. To be cracked open and forced to look at your issues. To be able to do it naturally and without any negative side effects. Energy work, qigong, yoga. So the difference between yoga and qigong is that qigong deals primarily with life force energy, or qi, or prana. Yoga deals with prana too, but not nearly to the extent that qigong does. Qigong just means energy work. Yoga and mantra. I teach mantra and meditation, astrology.thunderwizard.com. Mantra and yoga are dealing with kundalini. And kundalini is a life force energy in and of itself. But kundalini is related to emotional maturity and opening up the chakras. The chakras are also about different levels of emotional maturity. And if you want to, you can go onto my channel and search for all the videos that I talk about the chakras. And I tell you about what those really are. So kundalini is important. By the way, anybody who's had an intense kundalini experience, like your nerves are tingling, your mind is frayed, you have visions, and and it's challenging for you or incredibly blissful, that is not necessarily the sign that your Kundalini has awakened. It is the sign that you have a lot of psychological blocks. When Kundalini, and this is the same for Chi as well, when your chakras are open and when your nadis are open, your nervous system is open, and you don't have any psychological or unconscious blocks in your body, then Kundalini flows very smoothly, and sometimes you don't even feel it. So if you feel it really intensely and it's really crazy, and I went crazy, my Kundalini, that's not Kundalini's fault. That is, Kundalini, it's like when you kink up a hose and you turn the hose on, the water gets kinked up. Same thing when you do qigong and you have like pain in your limbs or in your hands. It just means that the meridians, the energy meridians, need to open up. Once they open up, then the energy flows, and you might have a pleasant feeling, but you don't have that intense energy feeling. So energy work is important, and in my experience, if you really want to be healthy and live a long time, you kind of can't avoid that. The next thing is ritual. Doing shamanic ritual. I use the word shamanism in quotes, and I use it very generally speaking. I get people, emailing me and connecting me saying, I'm just getting into shamanism, and these question marks go in my mind like, I don't know what that means. What is it that, because everybody has a different idea. Some people think shamanism is taking chemicals, taking power plants, doing what they call ceremony. Remember, I was about to go. This was a few months back, and I was trying to do the dating thing, and I met this girl online, and she talked about doing ceremony, and she was interested in me because I was a shaman, and I was like, oh, I thought she meant ritual. No, she meant sitting around and doing power plants, and I was like, so that's her idea of shamanism. My idea of shamanism is anything, including that, and anything else that aligns us to the spiritual realm with the physical, that creates a balance between the physical and the spiritual. That is how I use the word shamanism. Ritual is incredibly important. Ritual is probably the capstone. And by ritual, I mean dealing with symbolism, dealing with the 5 elements, dealing with the 9 worlds of the world tree, the 8 directions, dealing with mantra, dealing with posture, dealing with using idols and using offerings, and dealing with different entities and deities and all of that. That to me is shamanism. Shamanism is sort of like, for me, if magic is to do a chant or something, it changes the reality. Shamanism is sort of like having the entire toolbox to be able to shift reality and shift yourself to align with reality or to align with a different reality. That to me is shamanism, using ritual, aligning the 3 selves, the upper, the lower, and the middle self, aligning the 3 minds. So ritual and shamanism I found to be extremely important and very valuable and very powerful in terms of giving yourself longevity and health. Now let's get to some more practical stuff. The practical stuff is the stuff that most people miss. I've gone through a lot of these, and there may be some of you that do some or all of those. Oh, I do all of those things, and I'm in this and that, and then I talk to them and I find out, wow, this person's really out of balance. So just because you have a spiritual life and just because you do all that stuff, that doesn't mean that you are balanced. It doesn't mean that your energy isn't being depleted. I have in my mind 3 people who very powerful teachers, very powerful spiritual practitioners, very powerful in terms of energy, who are the most unbalanced people I've ever met. Very unhappy, very unbalanced. And in one case, one of them became very sick, like life-threatening. And this is supposed to be a master. Well, if you're truly a master, then you don't make yourself sick as a result of all of the stuff you're denying within yourself, your emotional stuff. So Practical thing is getting plenty of sleep or rest. Sleep. I just got back from the gym, busting my ass in the gym. I do it for fun. I do it for health. Lately, I'm doing it because I'm obsessed about my age. I just turned 55, and the thought of getting old is like looming. Because now it's 60 is, and once you're 60, so I'm in the gym busting my ass, trying to in my mind keep old age at bay. But I also do it because it helps me sleep. I like to get 8 hours of sleep, and I like to be tired. But I have this brain that is constantly going, and my mind is constantly going. So I need something that will shut that off. Lots of qigong will do it, and lots of physical exercise, like to the point of exhaustion. That helps me as well. But it's also really tends to be one of those things. We have as you get older, one of the things that's important is all of the hormones in your body, like testosterone and things like that. Are these things being released? Sitting on your ass eating Cheetos and watching Netflix tends to limit the amount of these chemicals being released. But when you put your physical body under stress, it releases all that, and it tells the body, hey, we're not done yet. It's not time to get old. Let's keep going. We got a lot of stuff to do. So I didn't put physical exercise in there, but I'm obviously saying that is pretty important. You got to be physically active. If you're a yogi and you use yoga to, like especially things like Kundalini yoga, if you can do that you get your spirituality and your Kundalini thing, and you've got your physical exercise all wrapped up into one. But getting plenty of sleep is important, getting plenty of rest. While we're talking about the subject of rest, let me tell you how I live my life. I made an effort. I've always had this desire, but I've made the effort recently in the past, 5 years especially. I made a commitment that I was never going to overwork myself. Never. Those days are gone. There is a time for that. There was a time, when I had a theater company, and I had co-founded a theater company in Hollywood, and I was working 2 jobs, and I was teaching acting classes, and I was writing plays, and I was directing plays, and I was acting in plays, and I was, also auditioning for movies and television. And I ended up in the hospital with a kidney stone because, as you can imagine, I wasn't getting much sleep. I was drinking nothing but coffee and soda, and I was furious and angry at the world, and I ended up. So those days for me are gone. I'm never doing that again. I'm never working for anybody. I'm never going to be stuck somewhere in an office going, oh my God, what time is it? Oh man, I'm never doing that again. So when it comes to hard work, I don't work hard. I just don't. This is how I learned the idea of the soul desire. If you just work, if there is such a thing as work, it is working to understand, to listen, and to follow your soul desire. And then it's not work. It's fun. You may be spending a lot of time, and it may take a lot of energy and effort, and you may be tired afterwards, but you're happy, you got a smile on your face. It's not work. So I don't work. So rest is important, and by rest I mean just enjoying life, just kicking back. And one of the things that I do, I only take a certain amount of clients per day when I'm working, because the rest of the time I give to myself to either sleep in and relax, like I did today. I just slept in and, was very lazy, and when I got up, or, to get up and go surfing that morning and then go get a massage and come home and relax and then take some phone calls. I go to bed when I want to. I don't want to look at a clock and force myself. I never want to wake up to an alarm clock. This, I think, is incredibly important. Now, maybe you like that. I don't. But I refuse to live with any kind of feeling of being pressured or forced into anything. I can't tolerate it. I want to live free. I want to create my own schedule. And I tell you that you can have that. If you want that, you can have that. Now, here's one of the things I'm lacking in, but it is important. Having a healthy social life. Now, a healthy social life may be different for you than it is for me. For me, a healthy social life is maybe having a couple of friends. And I've also got here a love life, if that's important to you. I definitely have found that real, mature, loving relationships, romantic relationships, there's nothing like it in the world. When you find that one, or you find one that really works, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it in the world. It's the most healing thing I've ever experienced. And that will help you. That's not just me talking. That's doctors will tell you that. That's why people get dogs and cats, because that releasing of the oxytocin. Is that what it's called? But that's important. It's important. I found, maybe I'm just talking about me, but it's important not to feel alone in the world. It's important to have somebody that acts like a mirror, that will bounce your reflection back onto you, and you don't feel alone. It's important. There's something, we're wired for that. It's important to have that. Now, finding one that'll work, that's a whole different story. And it is better to be alone, like I am now, than to be in a dysfunctional relationship, for sure. So on the flip side of that, don't allow yourself to be in any relationships you don't want to be in. I do recommend, if somebody, is in a relationship, I recommend commitment. If you make a commitment, I recommend sticking with it, unless it just becomes so destructive to you and you're staying in it just to please the other person or to whatever other psychological weirdness, then of course walk away. Having said that, I don't understand people who complain about relationships. You either want to be in it or you don't. And I don't understand being in a relationship you don't want to be in. It's very hard for me to tolerate listening to people complain about their wife or their husband or their girlfriend or their boyfriend. And I get these kinds of calls all the time, especially when I used to do psychic work, and people would want to know, what was my boyfriend or my husband thinking, or my whatever, is so-and-so cheating on me? And eventually we would get to the, I would ask them, they'll say things like, really ridiculous questions like, when is the relationship going to get better? Or when is he going to realize, these kinds of ridiculous questions. And I would get to the question to them, which would be, can you accept him or her exactly as they are? And if the response was anything other than yes, including if it was yes but, or yes if, then if you can't say yes, then leave. If you can't accept people, and this is true for friendships and jobs, everything. Can you accept it exactly as it is? And if the answer isn't yes, then leave. For me, anything other than that is, I have no tolerance for listening to those kind of complaints, because you can do whatever the hell you want. And that's important to understand, that you can do whatever the hell you want in life. Last thing I'm going to say is this. This is something that I have found to be lacking all over the place. And it's probably, I'm not going to say the most important thing, but it is a crucial element. It's like a crucial little hinge that without it, I've found that people can bullshit themselves into a lot of really destructive living. And that is, when necessary, make sure that you have counseling available on all levels. Psychological counseling, spiritual counseling, friends that'll bounce things off of you, teachers, mentors. You got to have this. We are in a very intense video game called life. It is not easy. It is a very challenging life. Otherwise, our souls would not have put the time and effort into incarnating. And we incarnate because we choose to. We choose to because there are things we want to experience and learn. And we can't do it alone. Even doctors, even surgeons. If a brain surgeon needs brain surgery, he has to go to another brain surgeon. He cannot do brain surgery on himself. And so, you know, I hear people, there's a lot of people that come onto my channel who have a lot of emotional issues and they need counseling. And you've heard me say that at some point somebody will ask a question and they'll say, listen, you need to go get counseling. You need to go see a therapist. You need to get check yourself into rehab, whatever. And sometimes the excuses that come back are, oh, I've tried counseling and it didn't work. To which I say, bullshit. I don't know that. Maybe that counselor wasn't right for you, but so what? Go find somebody that'll get you what you need. At least half of the time, perhaps more, but at least half of the time, these are people who were confronted by counselors and therapists to give them, hey, what you need to do is this, or here's some things we need to look at, or you're about to, you know, experience something and they checked out or didn't do it. And then their response is, well, I tried counseling and it didn't work. We all need it. We all need it. We all need somebody who, at the very least, is objective. Because we're not. We're not objective when it comes to ourselves. So these are some of the things I've been thinking about in terms of what is important for longevity. I know you thought I was going to say something else, but you know, I'm feeling a little more practical as I'm getting ready for my trip. So I'm going to take a short break. I'll come back, and then if there are any questions, I'll answer them. Let me see if I need to make a... Do I need to make a... No, I don't need to make a... What do you call it? Yeah, okay, great. So if you have any questions, please write them down, and I will address them if I can. So I shall be back in a couple minutes.
Misty morning, clouds in the sky. Without warning, a wizard walks by. Casting its shadow, weaving a spell. Long gray clothes, twinkling bell. Never talking, just keeps walking. 'Cause in his magic, evil power disappears. Demons worry when the wizard is near. He turns tears into joy. Everyone's happy when the wizard walks by. Never talking, just keep walking. Spreading his magic. Sun is shining, got to come by. All the people give a happy sigh. The years pass by, giving a sign. There's all the people feeling so fine.
Okay, hopefully I didn't turn the sound off this time. I clicked the wrong button. Hopefully I can go back in there later and edit it out so that people won't be listening to silence. Writing in the comments, why is there no sound? after this gets archived. Okay. So let's take a look and see if there are any questions. I think I might make this a short one because I want to relax and get ready for tomorrow. All right, so. John Burnham, question. I have spent years in supervisory and training management. I have led most of my life being the go-to person who has an answer for any and everything in and out of the workplace. In terms of ceremony, this is a long question. In terms of ceremony, I have only had one deep meditation where I saw a vibrating purple ring like that of the movie The Ring. How would you interpret that? I have no fucking clue. That's the only, I don't know. No idea. I would want to ask you all kinds of questions first. But what does that have to do with ceremony? You said ceremony and one deep meditation. So, ceremony doesn't have to be anything special. Look, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to your question. I don't know what that meant. But, I've been talking about this a lot lately. Experiences are just that. They're experiences. They're oftentimes meaningless. Listen, there's a lot of people in the world who have visions. There's a lot of people who hear voices. Some of them are having visions. Some of them are insane. So, how do you tell the difference between something that's just coming out of your own unconscious weirdness or something that is a real experience? And that is through time. Whenever I have had a shamanic vision, I never take it as meaning anything, except afterwards I will meditate on it and meditate on what it might mean. I will check it to see if it, lines up with real life. I'll do research. If I'm, what got me started on this path was I was having some energy problems, and I was merging two different traditions together, which is not recommended, and I was having all kinds of energy problems and headaches and hot flashes and all kinds of weird stuff. And in meditation, just meant simply with my eyes closed, I just said, if there's anybody out there listening, I need a one-word sound, one-word mantra, a one-word meditation to heal my energy. And I got this extremely subtle, very, very subtle sound, which ended up becoming the whole breath. But I could have easily simply discarded it as just a thought that came through my head. The point is it wasn't a big deal. I didn't have to go into a deep meditation to have a big experience. And so big experiences and little experiences, how do you know which one is the real thing? This is part of the maturity process. So, sometimes we need to be cracked over the head with a big experience, but, sometimes those big experiences are nothing more than your own unconscious garbage. When it comes to dreams, there's at least three kinds of dreams. There's the dreams that you don't remember. The majority of them you don't remember are your brain offloading data, because everything that you do in the day is recorded in your subconscious mind. And as you sleep, your subconscious mind is releasing all of the minutia. I go down here to pick this up and I drink this. I put my glasses on X amount of times to read the thing because I'm nearsighted. We offload that. But in my dreams, as I'm sleeping, I'm going to see myself doing all those things. But it's not recorded in there because it's not important. And then you have dreams where you actually do leave your soul leaves your body, and you maybe astral travel. A lot of people think that's a big deal. It happens. Every single one of us astral travels every night. It doesn't mean anything really. It could be that you remember you have an experience that means something and you remember that. It could also be just your unconscious mind. So within that, there's at least two dreams that we have, and that is we experience our unconscious fantasies, where we're dating 6 supermodels and, we're 10 feet tall and have $1 million and whatever. And then we have our unconscious fears, which we call nightmares. Those don't mean anything. It's just our unconscious unloading. Now, it's valuable to look at it from a psychological perspective and a shamanic perspective. You want to know, because we project everything. Everything is a projection. Every single thing in our life is a projection. When you fall in love with somebody, that's a projection. Relationships take at least 6 months. You have to be with somebody for at least 6 months before you start to see their character. That's why so many relationships fall apart between 6 and 9 months. And for a long time as a young man, I couldn't get past the 9-month mark, and that's because of that reason. I just wasn't capable of having a relationship. And I'd hit that 6 or 9 month, and I'd tell you whatever the problem was with her. It may have been true, but at the same time, I was incapable of it. Because, once you get past the projection, it's your projection. Oh my God, that person is so beautiful. We're soulmates. We've been destined and blah, and she loves me and I love her. That's all projection. Nothing wrong with it, because projection is necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't come together, and it creates a bond. But once we get past that bond, then it has to be real, right? So you had an experience and you want me to give you an interpretation. First off, if I had one, I'd give you one, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Because you can have just as powerful an experience where the universe gives you something of tremendous power, but you don't listen to it because it's too subtle. You're expecting something big. So I just wanted to address that based on your question. Having said that, I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question because I don't know. I would need far more information to be able to help you with that. CNS Productions 14 question. I have a few things I enjoy doing. Can you have multiple soul desires? I would have to talk to you. I don't know what that means, but your soul desire can change throughout your life. As I said previously, I was an actor for a while, and that's not my soul desire. My soul desire now is to surf, and I'm pursuing that. And I'm doing scary things like taking, 2 weeks and going to, by myself, going to a foreign country. Thankfully, they speak my language, and they're, about as, Australia surf culture is about as California as you can get. So I'm pretty safe. But can you have multiple soul desires? Yeah. It makes me want to ask you why you want to do that, because the soul desire isn't just, there are things that I like to do, but then there's that one thing that you need to do. I need to surf. If I don't, I'm not right. It's my medicine. It's the one thing that just really aligns me and gives me joy, and keeps me sane. Without it, I start losing my sanity, and I don't like being here. So that's my soul desire. What is that one thing that just without it, you can't live? You got a bunch of hobbies and stuff, maybe, probably, nothing wrong with them. We all have them, but is that your soul desire? I don't know. Can a woman be your soul desire? No. You can have a soulmate for sure. I've had one. But that's not your soul desire. Oh my God, nothing personal, CNS Productions 14, but that's kind of scary. Imagine being on the other end of that. Somebody is the sole purpose of your life. That's what a soul desire is. A soul desire is the sole purpose of your life. A woman can't be that. Is it part of your life path to be in a committed relationship? I can tell you for sure it is for me. I'm not in one right now. Don't know if I ever will be again. I sure hope so. But that is definitely, that's high on my list of something that I want. I want to have that again. what I had with my fiance who passed away. I want to have that again. And I'm going to, you know, I was extremely happy and fulfilled. She wasn't my soul desire. But what she did do is she reflected back to me my soul purpose and my soul desire. She supported it energetically, emotionally. So this is one of the biggest conflicts that happens, is that people get into relationships and the person you're in relationship with is somebody who is a block to you following your soul desire. That's how you know you're in a dysfunctional relationship. When you become aware of what your soul desire is and your relationship or the person that you're in relationship with is threatened by that, that is a sign that it's time to move on, that this relationship is no longer serving you in terms of your soul desire. Time to move on. I know that what I said, that somebody can twist that around into, you know, their whatever. But short answer is no, a woman cannot be your soul desire. Sorry. John Koichi question, can you explain what a star means to you? What a star? I mean like a star in the sky? Well, it means a big ball of gas. Some people say that stars are gateways to other dimensions. When it comes to when we're dealing with, when I start going into a mythological frame of mind, I start to talk about the gods and the different kinds of gods that there are. There are terrestrial gods, which my ancestors called the Wains or the Vanir, the gods of fertility and magic, the gods that exist within time and space. And then there are the celestial deities, who I envision as being stars. The sun is treated as a deity, definitely a celestial deity. So, you know, that's a very general question. It makes me want to know why you're asking me that. That's not something I teach. So again, the best way to get answers from me is to ask me about something that is within my teachings. If you're asking me questions that aren't connected to what I teach, I start to think you're not paying attention to my videos, you haven't read my books, you don't know what I teach. And then I start to get, at some point I get frustrated and I start to get, you know, and I say, listen, that's, you know, that's disrespectful to be asking me about other traditions and other teachings. So I don't know why you're asking about that. Here's another way to best ask a question. Reveal what your emotional connection to the question is. Asking me what a star means to me doesn't tell me why you're asking the question, because I'm here to help you. So if you say something like, I have this tremendous need to connect with star energies, can you tell me what they are? But from that question, I don't know if you're just pulling something out of your ass because you're bored and you want to keep me talking, you know? So sorry about that. You know, make it relatable to you. And that will stimulate me to want to help you, and it will stimulate me to want to go deeper with your question. Cosmo Joe, question, are all methods just means of filling the dantians up? No. Because I've read that all circulations happen naturally after the dantian is filled. Nope. Cosmo Joe. Cosmo Joe and I have a good relationship. I sometimes give him a hard time because Cosmo Joe gets stuck in his head. Cosmo Joe, you're stuck in your head. Cosmo Joe wants to figure everything out. And if he can, with his intellect, because he has a very powerful intellect, which is a good thing. But the intellect is always trying to figure things out because it wants to control things. And if it can control things, then it feels safe. Because the intellect is here. The term intellect means to pick apart from among. When you read something, it means legere, to pick apart. Leer, legere. In Latin, it means to pick apart from the symbols and put together words. And that's how you read. That's what the intellect does. But no, short answer is no. All methods are not just means of filling up the dantian. You're looking for that one thing. If I can just do that one thing, then I'll have done everything. Which you can do, but you're thinking too much about it. And why do you need to ask me that question? Why do you feel that that's important? To narrow it down to that one thing. Because what if I said yes? Yes, everything is just filling up the dantians, and then once you've filled up the dantians, everything then you're going to go, okay, good. I'll just fill up the dantian. You can spend all day filling up the dantian and be avoiding your emotional issues, your psychological issues, your relationship issues, your health issues. You know what I mean? So there isn't just we live in a dynamic balance where there's all kinds of things going on. If there is only one thing that's important, as I've said before, there's only one thing that's important, that's following your soul desire. In order to know what your soul desire is, you have to be connected to your emotions. This is something that the intellect, when it is in full swing, it seeks to completely disconnect from the emotions. This is why THC, I'm not going to say cannabis because there's some things about cannabis, that are good for you, like CBD oil. But THC will definitely trap you into your intellect, and the one reason why people like to do it a lot is because it gets them out of their emotions. Gets you trapped in your intellect, and you're like, hey man, I think that do you think there's like a person in my thumbnail, man, who's living on a little planet, who's looking at his thumbnail, wondering, wow, that's the intellect gone crazy. You're not having any emotions. In order to understand your soul desire, you have to be connected to your emotions, which is a frightening thing, which is why the intellect gets in there and keeps us wrapped up in all that intellectuality so we don't connect. I'd be more interested in talking to you about why that's important to you, to find that one thing. What is the emotional life that you're either trying to avoid or that is driving it? Okay? But short answer is no. All methods are not just filling up the dantians. Jedi Black Knight, question. Knowing me and what I practice, is there anything in the Immortality Series Level 1 that I don't already know or do? I got your email. I haven't answered it because I'm thinking about how I want to answer that. Because there's more to it than just doing the practices. There's other things involved. So I still haven't decided how to respond to you. And again, Jedi Black Knight, it's kind of a disrespectful question. When you're studying with a teacher, especially like traditionally speaking, a teacher will take you aside and say, I'm going to teach you such and such method. Now, I don't have that kind of scenario because I don't have students that I work with like that on that kind of a basis. So people have to come to me and ask to learn things. There are things that you are doing, Jedi Black Knight, that you've already been doing that are in that practice. So there's not going to be a lot in terms of the techniques that you don't already do. As I said before, there are things that are on the channel for free that I'm going to start phasing out that will only be available in things like the Immortality Series. But I haven't told you exactly what to do. I don't even know. You're not even my student. You come here and I think you got a reading from me, like an astrological reading, and you've been following my teachings on the YouTube channel, and I don't know what else you've done, books or whatever. But in terms of us, you and I don't have a personal connection. You're not my apprentice. So there may be a lot of things that you don't know about. So I understand the question. I appreciate the question, and that's why I haven't responded to you, because I don't know how I feel about that question. So there you go. All right, there's a question here that's held for review. I don't know why. Let me read it to see if there's something. Oh, because it. Yeah, all right. I'll go ahead and show that question. Cameron Mack, question. Especially if somebody is not in a relationship, what is your perspective on masturbation and porn? How much does it mess with qigong practice? So somebody a while back asked me about this, but he only asked about masturbation. And then I had an answer for that. And then later on, he then said something about some movement that I can't remember the letters for, which is an anti-porn movement. So porn and masturbation are not mutually inclusive. Most people who watch porn do masturbate, but a lot of people masturbate and don't watch porn. So are you saying, you want me to talk about both of those together? And what do they do? Again, I am far more interested in why you're asking me. Are you asking me that because you feel that you have a problem? Are you masturbating to porn 5 times a day? Are you a young guy who's never been in a relationship? And, there's all different levels to this. When I was a kid, all we had were magazines. And that's a far cry from the shit that goes on in porn now. And kids that have grown up with the internet, and it's impossible for a kid not to see porn. It's impossible, Whereas when I was a kid, you had to, if you were lucky, maybe your dad had some Playboys in the closet. You could go in there and steal that and look at it, or your friend found a Playboy magazine. That's nothing. It's a woman naked. Maybe you saw some nipples, and that was about it. That is such a huge difference. And so for somebody that's happened, that watching porn is going to have a different effect on them. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. And I'm not going to say that there aren't negative effects to that, but that's going to be a different level of effect on their brain and how they view sexuality and how they connect to sexuality than somebody like when I was a kid, 50s, 60s, and 70s, all they had were magazines. That's a whole different deal. So I don't know why you're asking me that question. People make these blanket statements, and there's, like I said, there's this whole movement out there now, anti-porn movement, and people, are saying that it's, and I don't doubt it for a second, that it is helping them in their relationships, it's helping them in their life, and it's changing all kinds of things. There's no doubt that, like pornography, if a kid grows up on pornography, he's going to have a really messed up idea about what sex is all about. He's going to have, and I've heard plenty of stories of younger people that they can't have sex with another person because, and I've even heard of people, and not just young people, but even adults who do this weird thing where, they meet online and then they want to have a date. And this one woman was telling me that what this guy's idea of a date is that they would sext, or that they would have sex, via Skype, and they lived near each other. And she was like, "Well, why don't we just get together and have sex? Why don't But that's the only way he could do it. There was a person who offered to do that. That's what they wanted. They lived on another part of the country and contacted me and said, "Let's do this." And I thought about it, and I said, I don't know that that's anything that, I don't see any benefit in that for me. So you're asking me about qigong practice. Now that's a big deal. So you want to practice qigong? These are all 3 different subjects, and you're not revealing to me why you're asking it. I can only assume you're asking me that because you have a problem with it. In which case, if it's causing you a problem, you need to stop. You can do whatever the hell you want, but if you're asking me this question because you have an issue with it and it's causing you a problem, regardless of qigong or not, qigong has nothing to do with it, then get some help. Get some counseling for it. There's a lot of places online to get help with porn addiction and all of that. And then there are just people that have all kinds of fucked up feelings about masturbation. And there are people out there that won't release sexually. You know, and some of them, you know, they're messed up in the head, and some people have guilt associated with it. And then there's this whole movement about, you know, people are doing energy work and qigong and they're staying celibate, but they don't have any techniques for celibacy. And so they do all kinds of weird things like sexually stimulate themselves and then stop before they achieve orgasm, which is extremely destructive. It just creates all this heat in the body that stays in the body. It doesn't do anything. They feel like they're accomplishing something qigong-wise because they feel all kinds of energy, but it dissipates. It does nothing. So, you know, this was something I wanted to say earlier when it came to what shamanism really is. And it's some of the things that my Taoist teachers told me. And what they said was that the Tao is just nature. And practicing the Tao means learning how to be natural. So one of the things that I learned how to do, even in martial arts, was to learn how to walk naturally. You know, walking heel toe. And that there's a whole energetic thing that happens with the energy centers on the heel. This is my hand, of course, the heel and the toes. And learning how to do that naturally. And so many people don't, you know, people walk around and they got these weird, you know, people walk with weird gaits and they, you know, especially like the, forgive me for sounding like an old man, but the rappers, when I watch the way the rappers move, it's incredibly unnatural. And they're locking, you know, all kinds of, you know, and they're doing the thing and the yo and all that and all that. They're doing weird things to their meridians. It's not natural. It's an emotional expression, but then when it becomes a habit and people can't not walk and move that way, you know, like here's another example. I can tell without ever even talking to somebody or looking them in the eye, if I see them walking down the street and I notice that they don't touch their heels to the ground. You see this with young guys especially, but some people do this throughout their life. That's tremendous insecurity. It means they're literally walking on eggshells. They want everybody's approval so badly, or they've come from or they're so young and insecure, you know, that they don't do that. But, you know, how you moving naturally means the energy will move well. So I don't know why I got on that. We were talking about masturbation and porn. So you want me to give you a straight answer. If you masturbate to porn, then this is what happens to your energy, and this is bad. And it's just nothing fits in that kind of a bracket. It all depends on so many fucking different things. Were you raised that way? Were you, let's say, a young man who didn't get enough emotional attention from his mother, enough touching from his mother? Are you somebody whose mother did not nurture you emotionally? Did your mother not reflect back who you are? And at the same time, you grew up watching porn on the internet, and were you masturbating to porn, and are you addicted to porn? That is a whole different thing. There might be another guy who watches porn and masturbates, and you know, it doesn't have the same effect on him. So you're wanting me to give you a blanket statement so that you can put it in a tiny box, and again, you're not telling me your issue. And this is why, instead of going online and reading something and thinking that you know something, you need to have a teacher. Like if you wanted to be celibate, I could tell you how to do that. But there are specific methods that you have to do it right. You know, if you try, you know, you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. So I'm not going to give you a straight answer with that, because I can tell from the question that it's not coming from a balanced understanding. And it tells me that you've got some issues and you need help. So I would recommend getting some help with that. Not just go on the internet and ask some guy on a Q&A something that's going to have a huge effect on your life. Okay? All right. So if you want to talk with me, you can. If anybody wants to have a session with me, where did we go? If you want a session with me, career.thunderwizard.com. And I'll talk to you, and if I can help you, I will. Question, can I be wrong about what I think my soul desire is? Well, your soul desire isn't wrong, but can you be wrong about it? Yeah, of course. That's what, I mean, listen to, excuse me, everything that I've said about soul desire. When you have your soul desire, which is what your soul wants, you will then be confronted with your conflicts. Your conflicts are all of your karmic issues and what you've grown up with, and they almost, they always revolve around trying to fit within other people's, getting love or fitting into other people's standards. And so oftentimes people are wrong. They're mistaken is a better word, because, like for instance, the people who practice The Secret, a lot of people practice The Secret and they go, what I want is I want a mansion with a bunch of cars, and that's not what they want. I want to win the lottery, and if I win the lottery, then it'll all be okay, because then, and then you ask some questions and you find out that what they're going to do with that money is they need to, because so-and-so in their life doesn't have a job, and they won't, so they're going to pay for so-and-so's lifestyle, and then they'll assuage their guilt, and what they really want is so-and-so's love and acceptance when so-and-so needs to get up off his ass and do his own shit. You know what I mean? So whenever I hear somebody say that, well, my soul desire is to win the lottery, I already know that they're out of alignment with what their soul wants, because you don't want money. Money means nothing. The only thing that money is it's resources to give you the freedom to do what your soul desire wants to do. So if somebody's only soul desire is to have a mansion with cars, they don't know what their soul desire is. They're mistaken. They're frightened, and they think that money will keep them safe. So to answer your question, yes, you can be wrong about what the soul desire is. That's what the whole thing is about. Go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and look for the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I've already written it. Go read the book. Grebnor Thomas question. While relaxing, I get a weird scratch feeling on my left hand and ear and left leg, after which my body forcibly inhales and then I pass out. Go to a doctor, man. That sounds really fucked up. I don't know what that is. Go see a doctor and see if there's something wrong. I don't know what the hell that is. Travis Cup. What's the point of even astral traveling? Travis Cup. I've seen your name. I recognize it. Have you read my books? Do you watch a lot of my videos? When have I ever said that astral traveling was important? That should answer your question. Gremnor Thomas question. During close down, so he's talking about qigong.thunderwizard.com. He's talking about the close down routine. When you do a qigong practice, you need to close down. You need to bring the energy back into your navel center and do some self-massage to bring you back into your body. During close down, I noticed massaging my ears made me yawn. Should I be cautious about this? No. Yawning just means that the brain is hot and it needs to cool down. That's what yawning is. Just cooling down the brain. Jacob Albright, all right. Cosmo Joe question. Aren't emotions seated in the heart dantian? Wouldn't the soul desire be seated there? What difference does it make? You're, again, thinking about filling up the dantians. Right? So you're wanting me to give you that one little thing. You're too literal. And I don't know that I've said the emotions are seated in the heart dantian. I've said that a lot of them. Look, emotions are just. I know where you're coming from, and I know that there are things that even I have said that can give somebody that conclusion. But again, you're trying too hard to find the one thing that you can fit in the little box and make it all fit and be okay. You need to be comfortable living in not knowing. Just live your life, man, and enjoy your life. What are you trying so hard to do? You're trying so hard to protect yourself from something. You're trying too hard. All of these practices are meant to do one thing: help you enjoy your life. They shouldn't be that big of a deal. That doesn't mean you can't be disciplined in them and do them like I've done with multiple things and enjoyed that. But I learned a long time ago that the only thing that mattered was just being happy. It's the only thing that matters. Two things. enjoying life and being happy and loving other people. It's all that matters. You know, I'm getting a lot less selfish than I used to. And I'm not taking any, credit for that. I'm 55. It's kind of what happens when you get older. You know, I smile and I get a little tear in my eye when I see a little kid playing, all that kind of shit. But, there's a lot to be said for just doing something for other people, making other people happy. You can't get a hell of a lot better than that. So, go live your life, Cosmo Joe. Go have a life. Go have some fun. Stop trying so hard. When it comes to emotions, again, you're wanting to lodge the emotions in the heart center, and I hear where you're going. If I fill up the middle dantian, then that will, the emotions, and then the soul desires, that you're just thinking way too hard, man. Tells me there's some fear in there. You're afraid of the unknown. When it comes to emotions, emotions are just reactions. They're reactions to stimuli, and they're reactions to thoughts. That's all they are. That's why I try so hard to tell people not to take action on their emotions. The only emotion that I want you to take action on is the joy that you feel when you connect to your soul desire. That's the only thing that throughout the rest of your life, always take action on that joy. Whatever that joy tells you to do it. Your fears, your anger, your confusion, that's a 50-50. We don't know if they're working for you or against you. It's better to get used to being able to have the ability to, number one, know what all of your feelings are at all times, and to only take action that is conscious and constructive, which means a lot of times you're going to be taking constructive actions that are completely contrary to your fears. What you're not understanding, Cosmo Joe, is that the path that you want to take is a path of unconsciousness. Because you want me to give you a formula so that you can write it down and you'll know life works like this. Life is A, B, C, D, and G. This is always here. That's always there. And if I just do this, that will happen. And then I'll be safe. And then I'll be... And all of that is diverting you from the tremendous fear that drives that kind of thinking. There's a lot of fear. And then underneath the fear is your emotions. The problem with that is that when you live like that, see, here's the thing. Just because you're not feeling your emotions doesn't mean that they're not affecting your actions. This is why it's so important to be conscious of your feelings. Because when you're conscious of your feelings, you know what impulses are coming through to drive you. This is, again, why it's such a good idea to avoid all recreational chemicals, because just because you're not feeling the negative ones doesn't mean that they're not driving your actions. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm using THC again. THC, one of the things it does is it attacks the liver, energetically speaking. The liver is important when it comes to dealing and processing anger and resentment. So having a healthy liver is really important. This is why alcoholics drink, by the way. Alcoholics are fueled by resentment and victim mentality and all that, which is, again, resentment and anger. They drink because they can't tolerate those feelings. I mean, they drink to excess because they can't tolerate those feelings. And what ends up happening, if you've ever been around drunks, is that they get angry and abusive, they get belligerent, and they lose their inhibitions. But what's really happening is they lose their boundaries. They get right in your face. They're smiling. You're my best friend. I love you. And they're right in your face, and they just have no boundaries. So they're operating, their resentment and their anger and their aggressiveness comes out, and they're completely clueless to it. So I'm not helping you, Cosmo Joe, if I give you that one thing that's going to make it all fit so that you don't have to have all these feelings, because then you're still going to be acting on them. You'll be unaware of it, but it's going to come out of you. You know, this is why if I'm like in a relationship with a woman and, you know, I start to sense that there's one of those, if only he knew what I was thinking, you know, if you really loved me, you would know what I was thinking, and we don't. And then I have the talk and I say, listen, if there's something that you want from me, you have to tell me. And you also, if you ask me to do something because you want something from me, you also are giving me the right to say no. And if you're not willing to do that, we're not going to, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. Has to be like that. Because if she doesn't, and she just keeps within herself this expectation that if he loves me, he'll do this for me, then when I don't do that for her, she's going to get upset, and I won't know where it's going to come from, and it'll be about something that has nothing to do with anything. It'll be, you know, that I didn't put the toilet roll right the way, you know. It's going to come out of somewhere. I mean, it's going to, you know, any of these unresolved feelings, you know, are going to come out of my ass at some point. So I'm always looking for that. And this is why I love being with people who can communicate with their emotions. And I really, you know, this is going to sound weird, but like if I'm dating a woman, I want her to be able to hold me by the hands and look me in the eyes and say, I'm feeling really rageful at you right now. I'm really feeling murderous. I really hate you right now in this moment. If she can do that and look me in the eye and say that and own it, I will marry that woman. Because that means that she'll be able to talk about her feelings as opposed to being unconscious about it and then having come out and slap me across the face when I'm not expecting it. Where the hell did that come from? What do you mean I'm always doing this and that to you? So Cosmo Joe, this is what you're doing to yourself when you're trying to find the one thing that's going to make it all make sense because you're trying to avoid the feelings behind it. And there are things that there aren't any answers for, my friend. You just have to be there, just live life and enjoy it. Okay, so Jacob Albright. You're new to the channel, right? Here's what I need from you. One of the things I don't do is I don't respond to just big paragraphs of people putting their opinions out. It's not a free-for-all. For me, it's a Q&A, which means you ask me a question and I answer it. So I don't see a question in any of that. So I'm glad that you said all of that, but it doesn't mean anything to me at this moment. What I would like from you is if you have a question, write the word question in all caps and then write a short question so that, and then I'll try and answer you. I appreciate what you're saying here. You're trying to tell me that you want to be respectful and all that. So anyway, so if you have a question, please formulate a question and I will answer that for you. Okay, so here's a question. So this is before I told him what to do. He says, I'm curious if you like tarot and if there is a deck you use. Okay, so Jacob, you're new to the channel. Please try to limit your questions to what I teach. In order to understand that, it means you're going to have to watch my videos, watch a lot of them, read my books. If you hear me talking about tarot, I will have an opinion. If you don't see me teaching about tarot, it means that that's something I don't teach. And I don't talk about things that I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about tarot, so I don't have any opinions. Okay, try and find questions that will stimulate me to help you, and that starts with things that I teach, which means you have to actually watch, learn what it is I'm teaching, and then you'll have something to draw from. Other than that, welcome to the channel, and I hope you get something from it. Mercy Boite, question, is there a meditation for childhood abuse? Astrology.thunderwizard.com. What you need is you need to find somebody who can give you a mantra and a deity and a ritual that will help you connect to your issues. So the short answer is any real meditation that is aligned to you is going to help if you have childhood abuse. I'm assuming you had childhood abuse. Any meditation is going to do that. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and he had 3 different mantras for any. He said, "Oh, I'm worshiping this deity for this, and I'm worshiping this deity for that, and I'm worshiping this deity for this." He's trying to have all of his bases covered. And I explained to him that those deities and those mantras are going to do different things for different people, because each mantra is associated with a planet, and each deity will have either one or multiple planetary vibrations to it. So for instance, you probably didn't know this, but when you worship Ganesha, Ganesha is the planet Ketu, which is the south node of the moon. So when you worship Ganesha, you are pacifying and or stimulating the south node of the moon. Kali. A lot of people know who Kali is, but Kali is Saturn. Some people should not be worshiping Saturn. So when you ask me this, is there meditation for childhood abuse? I don't know what stimulated the creation of that abuse in your life, and I don't know what planet and what deity wants to help you with that. Maybe you need Venus, who is love and compassion. Maybe you need Mars, which is a warrior who needs to go after and destroy those who are fighting against you. I won't know that until I look at your chart. So the short answer is yes, but I can't give it to you offhand because mantras are not candy that you just throw out. It's when you go to the doctor, you know, somebody goes to the doctor and he has a runny nose and he has a cold. Somebody else goes to the doctor and has runny nose and he's dying of some horrific disease and needs something else. You know, just you're asking me about a symptom and you're asking me, is there a blanket thing for a symptom? On that question, Mercy, if you've suffered childhood abuse to the point that you're asking me to give you a mantra, you need to get some counseling about that abuse. Even if I give you a mantra, you need some counseling. If you were to come to me and ask for a mantra for childhood abuse, I might very well say I'll give you one, but only if you work with me for X amount of weeks and months so that we can talk about the abuse and how to help work through that, which is probably going to be a lifetime thing. You're going to need some help. Okay? It's really important. This is what we were talking about earlier. It's very important to have counselors, teachers, therapists. These are vital to us. And there's so many people who are living silently alone in their desperation and coming onto YouTube or typing things in on you know, and they're not reaching out and getting any help. You know, it's absolutely the most prevalent problem in the world. Is not physical or diet or spirituality. It's people not getting therapy, not getting counseling for their psychological issues. So get some help, please. If you want my help, you know where to reach me. Okay. Caitlin Bender, that's not a question. If you have a question, please ask it. I'm not interested in your opinion. You just gave me 2 things on your opinion on my stuff, and I'm not interested in your opinion. You want to have an opinion, go create your own channel. You want to ask me a question, I'm happy to answer it for you. But those are the only things I'm going to respond to are questions. So, yeah. If you don't agree with me, there are plenty of other channels you can enjoy. Night Owl, question. Do you believe humanity will ever get away from politics and religion? No. The fear and control matrix. I mean, I could be wrong about that. We are in a Yuga cycle. We came out of Kali Yuga during the Reformation period in the 1700s, which is why when humanism was born, that's how you know that we made the shift from Kali Yuga into Dvapara Yuga with the birth of humanism. And the fights that we have in politics right now are having because Dvapara Yuga is symbolized by half and half, which means half the people are conscious and the other half are unconscious, and there's this huge fight. And the big things that we're seeing in politics right now, which I never thought I would see in my lifetime, I would never thought would be possible in the United States, the things I'm seeing in politics, are a result of the last gasp of Kali Yuga, as it's holding on to the rich versus the poor. This is being obliterated by the Aquarian Age. And we're moving into Dvapara Yuga, where eventually half the people will be conscious and the other half won't. We're coming out of Kali Yuga, where 75% of the population was unconscious and 25% was conscious. So I don't think we're ever going to get away from it, but if we get all the way back to, eventually we'll get back to the golden age again. Who knows how many thousands of years it'll be, but when we get there, then we won't need that. Politics and religion will be something else. It won't be the way it is now. So I wanted to say no, but it's not going to happen probably in our lifetime, but it will eventually happen. Cryptic Conjurer question, do you find meditation to be more successful outdoors or indoors? Neither and both. Just meditate. Jules Verne question, how are you, Michael? You look well. Well, I'm glad I look well. Thank you for that. I'm not feeling all that great. I got all kinds of personal and emotional things going on, which is making me crazy, which is one of the reasons I'm here, because whenever I help, it makes me feel better. But that's one of the important things to know is one of the ways that, when you're growing, I'm taking some big actions and I'm growing. But it's scary and I get kind of flipped out and I get weird and all that. But what's interesting to know is, again, it's important to know that sometimes it's not how you're feeling. It's how people are responding. So I appreciate that kind of feedback, because there have been times that I thought I had it all put together and people were saying, man, you seem really like aggressive and violent. So it's not how you feel. And the reason why this is important is because this goes back to astrology.thunderwizard.com, the Aruda, which is your reflection. The way to be successful in life is to let your reflection shine. And your reflection can be seen in your chart. I'm wearing my reflection. This isn't who I am, it's my reflection. And it's what gives me success. So I dress and present myself according to that. Sometimes when you go after what it is that you want for success, you may be really frightened, you may be really scared, you may be broke, and you may feel like it's the worst thing to do. You may show up and do a service for somebody. Let's say your sole desire is to become an astrologer. And then but you're scared to death of doing it. You don't think you know what you're doing. And then you give an astrology reading and somebody cries and says, thank you so much. You just saved my life. It's not about how you feel. It's about how it lands on people. So if what you're saying is correct, then you're telling me that I'm feeling crazy and flipped out and scared because I'm taking some big risks in my life, and it's showing through. It means I'm connecting to my soul. So thank you for the question and for the observation. What else here? Yeah, and please try to avoid cross-counseling people. Somebody asks me a question, that's for me. I don't need somebody else jumping in. Somebody last time, started giving out mantras to people and deities, and I eviscerated them. I really took them to task because they had no idea that what they were doing might be really harmful to somebody. And I know they didn't know any better. They didn't mean anything by it. I'd prefer to keep this a question and answer. It's, if somebody keeps coming in and throwing their opinion around and counseling people, I'm going to mute them because they might give somebody, some bad information. I don't want that happening on my channel. Question: how was your time surfing? I haven't been surfing in a few weeks, partly because there hasn't been any waves, and partly because I've been preparing for this surf trip. So. My surfing, I'm going tomorrow night. I'm leaving for Australia for 2 weeks to go on just a surf trip. All right, so Caitlin Bender, you're this close to getting muted, if that's interesting to you. If you want to be part of the channel, confine it to questions, otherwise I'll mute you. Lorraine Harvey question, I'm new to your channel. Where would you advise me to begin? Well, it kind of depends on what you want, but I would go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at the $25 level, and that will get you started on the basics of the Thunder Wizard path. It will also give you access to, I don't even know how many private videos. You can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and see my books and look to see which books you're interested in. I recommend starting with the Thunder Wizard path. Some people want to start with runes. I try and present my material in a way so that it can be a smorgasbord, you know, that you can kind of pick and choose what you want. And I know that for some people, they'd rather that I give them A, B, C, D, F, and G. But the internet doesn't work like that. You know, people pretty much just, the reason why I do that is because even if I did say you have to start here and go A, B, C, D, F, and G, people pretty much pick and choose whatever they want anyway. So I would go to those two places and see what it is that you want. And, of course, go onto my channel and binge watch. Watch as many videos as you can because you're going to find all kinds of different stuff on there. And those are my suggestions. I hope that's helpful to you. If you know exactly, you know, if you came here because you want to learn runes, I can help you with that. If you came here because you want to learn astrology, I can help you with that. If you came here because you wanted to learn whatever it is, if there's something specific, then I can guide you even further. Okay? Yeah, okay, so I am going to mute somebody because they're either not listening or whatever. So, is that what I want to do? No, that's not what I want to do. Something's changed here. I used to be able to put, oh, there it is. Okay. Rami, question. Do you allow me to download some of your videos to my device? Because I don't know what you're asking me. I don't know what you're asking me. Are you asking me to personally give you downloads? I don't do that. You know, I know that there are programs that will let you take videos off of YouTube. Are you asking me? You know, all of my videos are either on YouTube or they're streaming or they're on Amazon, and I don't. That's not my job. So again, if you're asking me to specifically download some videos to you, number one, I don't have the time to do that. You don't have the money to pay me for my time. And if you want that, you're going to have to get it through either Amazon or YouTube or, you know, some of the other things that I offer. So hope I answered your question. Jessica Johnston, how much does it cost for a chart reading? So Jessica Johnston, did you see me point here? This is what's called a URL. It's a website, astrology.thunderwizard.com. All of these websites here, when you go to them, they will tell you all kinds of information about those things, including the prices. So if you're interested in a reading, you need to go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and read up, and it will tell you exactly what you need to know. Dean Nevin's question, is there a benefit to silently chanting the runes or mantra while doing everyday activities? Is there a benefit to, yes, there's a lot of benefit. I do it myself all the time. Big capital letters, yes. Mercy Boite, question, is there any way to feel your emotions when I can't feel them? And instead get a physical symptom instead of feeling my emotion? Well, those are two questions. What's important in that question is absolutely true. Your unconscious emotions will lodge in your body. This is a big, this is what illness is. Illness is nothing more than this. When you are not conscious of your feelings, they get, especially if your negative feelings, most people are usually conscious of their positive feelings, but it's the unpleasant ones that people seek to be unconscious of. Yes, they get trapped in your body and they cause pain and they cause illness. So is there a way to feel your emotions when I can't feel them? And so, I mean, if that's a question, then you need to feel them. This is, again, why having a teacher is important, because a teacher is going to help you do that. One of the, I spend a lot of time counseling my my shaman students. I spend a lot of time counseling them, and it would sound, if you were to take big chunks of it, it would sound like I'm a therapist, I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm psychoanalyzing them. And that's because it's just a huge thing. It's extremely important. Without being consciously aware of your emotions, very little can be accomplished. NVT Chef T, you're new to the channel. Welcome. What I prefer people do is ask questions according to what I teach, which means you have to spend some time watching my videos and reading my books and knowing what it is that I teach. If you're asking me questions about things I don't know about, I don't have any. Number one, got any good holistic medicines for pagans? I'm not a pagan. I mean, technically I'm a polytheist, but I'm not a pagan, so I don't know. And I don't give out holistic medicines. I don't teach anything about that. I only talk about what I know. So, there you go. All right. Cosmo Joe, question. There is a reason I asked about, of course there is. There is a reason I asked about the Dantian, and it's related to the topic. Of course it is. I have found all other circulations, etc., exhaust me. But if I focus, meditate on the Dantian, it fills me with energy. So, number one, that's not a question. You're responding to, I asked you, why you're asking me that. If that's true, why did you ask me? That's your experience, and I believe it. I believe that when you fill your Dantian, because I know you and things I know about you, I believe that that's going to give you a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of safety, a feeling of of being energized, of being connected. So it's really not a question, and I'm happy for you. But you are asking me a question because you wanted me to co-sign your experience. And I know this isn't a place where you can just, I don't allow people to just blurt out their experiences, but see what I mean? You didn't really need to ask me. Somebody asked me on one of my videos about something, and I could just tell. I can tell most of the time what's going on. There's something going on in the questions. And somebody asked me about, power animals or something like that. And instead of answering the question, I said, why do you ask? And then the person went on to say, well, because I've been doing this for X amount of years, and I do this, and I've had really good experience with this. And, and I said, well, it sounds like you answered your own question. You don't need my help if you've had that experience. But I'm happy for you that you did. Jules Verne, question. Happy that you're coming to Australia. Well, are you in Australia? Hi. Happy to help with some local surf knowledge in Victoria, if you like. I don't know where Victoria is. So I'm going to be in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast. So email me in case that's anywhere close. And please, guys, don't abuse my some people kind of abuse, when I give out my email address, some people abuse it. I'll go back in here and erase this later because I don't want just people with their craziness emailing me unless you're whatever. So email me there, Jules Verne, and let me know where that is, and we'll take it from there. I appreciate the offer. Thank you. All right. Michael, question. What does putting your own blood in a rune do? I don't know. Again, I don't teach that. If I taught it, I would tell you. But since I don't teach it, I'm not going to talk about it. Mercy Boy, the question, which meditation is good for panic attacks? So do you have a question for which meditation is good for every single? Ideally, a meditation is going to deal with all of these things because a true meditation is going to get into your unconscious mind. So you don't have panic attacks and you don't have childhood abuse issues and this. All of those things are tendrils that come out of a source issue. That source issue is in your unconscious mind, and that's where it needs to be healed. And that is done, among other things, with ritual and with mantra. So I'm going to give you the meditation. Since you're new to the channel, go to, just type it in anywhere. type in Huul breath, H-U-U-L. Make sure it says H-U-U-L, because sometimes the spell check wants to change it to H-U-L-L. H-U-U-L breath. Go do that, and that will help you on multiple levels. It's one of those practices that will do anything for you. It will do anything and everything for you. If you want to achieve enlightenment, do that for 2 hours a day for the next 20 years, you'll achieve enlightenment. You want to become a master sorcerer, do it every day. If you want to master manifestation, if you want to become successful, if you want to find love. I mean, it's one of those things that if you do it, it will align you on every level and will give you whatever it is you think you want. That is one of those practices. There are a few out there. Jacob Albright, question, is my power animal or spirit guide animal most likely the same as my astrological sign? Not necessarily. That's too, no, not necessarily. Lorraine Harvey, question, do you have an animal spirit guide? I do. If so, can you talk about it a bit? Your initial meeting and any details you would like to share with us? Do I want to do that? I will talk a little bit about it. In Vedic astrology, astrology.thunderwizard.com, there is a deity that everyone has called the Ishta Devata, which means chosen deity. It's actually a planet. But each planet has, each deity is going to have an association with a planet. I currently have a power animal, which is a boar, a wild boar. His name is Golden Mane. Those of you who are familiar with Norse mythology know who I'm talking about. He is the mount for the god Frey. Frey is connected to Venus, and Venus is my Ishta Devata. And so somebody, and this was one of my students actually, revealed this to me. Had a dream and told me about a dream that he had, and in the dream he was at my house and all these things were going on, and out of my house came this giant boar. And the boar was looking him up and down and blah, blah, blah. And I came out and I said, oh, when all the weird stuff happened in the dream, he said, where'd you go? And I said, oh, I needed to go get my boar. And I came out with this giant boar. And I thought, oh, yeah, he had a dream and blah, blah, blah. And I thought about it and I went, hang on a second. My Ishta Devata is Venus. And Frey's, and I told him who the boar was. You know, I said, oh, yeah, that's Golden Mane. And then I realized that that's because that's my power animal. It's one of my power animals. So I think about him a lot. And he has powers, and one of his powers is that he can walk across the ocean. He can fly. That means two things. It means water means emotions. So that means he'll help me with dealing with that. I don't get overwhelmed, because I got a lot of emotions flying around in me at all time. I'm not one of those people that can tune out of my feelings. I don't have that ability, and it's very challenging. And so he gives me the ability to handle my emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. There's a reason why I surf. I mean, the symbolism is just undeniable. You know, because waves are, intense emotions, and surfing, you learn how to ride them. You can't get rid of them. You can't avoid them. And if you're on the wrong side of them, they can smash you on the head and drive you underwater, and you can drown and die. Waves can kill you. Surfing is a way of riding your emotions and enjoying them. The symbolism is, not lost on me. And he also flies through the air, which is thoughts. I also have my thinking is going there's always somebody on the little hamster wheel, which is why I need to do things like, go to the gym and work out until I pass out, because otherwise I'm up all night because my brain won't leave me alone. This is why I meditate. It's why I do qigong, so I can calm all that stuff down. How is it that I'm able to know what's going on behind people's questions and what they're, because it takes one to know one, right? I've never pretended to be enlightened, meaning I don't have any problems and I don't. No, I have all the same issues that everybody else does. I'm as crazy as anybody, probably crazier. But a lot of the things I've learned in order to keep myself sane and healthy and happy work. And, you know, this is why having a lot of feelings and having a lot of challenges and all that isn't necessarily bad stress. Bad stress is when you're in denial and pushing things away. Good stress, like going to the gym and lifting weights or having emotional issues or going through emotional transformations, these are very powerful things that can be very helpful to you, right? So I don't know if I answered your question or not. Clayton 128, question. It feels like once my attention turns to my throat at all during meditation, an uncomfortable sensation happens to the point it's distracting. Is this more significant than a need to exercise? Well, I don't know what exercise has to do with that. Are you saying that you want me to give you to choose between the two? That, oh, you don't need to exercise, you need to focus on your throat chakra? I'm not going to say that. I don't know what that has to do with that. But it means that just on the surface level, it means that there's something you need to say. That happens to me sometimes, like, you know, it's happened in relationships with women when I get upset and I feel I've been minimized or hurt in some way. Up my throat will, I can't talk. I knew somebody that was like that they literally would, they couldn't talk. So it just means that there's something that needs to be said there. You've got something stuck in, you've got some things, some truth that you're not verbalizing. And where that happened and how that happened, I would need to ask you a bunch of questions. Mercy Boite question, is it true suffering is the best teacher? And if so, how to use it, how to use stress? So I'm hearing a theme in all of your questions. That's really not a very specific question. So I hear abuse, I hear anxiety, and suffering. That is a really superficial way to deal with this question. Is it true suffering is the best teacher? How to use it, how to use stress. There's no possible way that I could answer what it is you're really asking me. I can give you really surfacey, superficial, you know, cute, trite little, you know, like suffering is the best teacher is a trite little aphorism that's thrown out. It doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. You need some counseling, Mercy. You're coming here because you want my help. I'm not going to waste your time with bullshit. You need counseling. Okay? If you're suffering, you need to find a way to not suffer so much. So you need to talk to somebody. Okay? You're welcome on my channel. You're welcome to watch all of my videos and to practice what I teach. And you're welcome to work with me privately if you want. All right, NVT Chef, please refrain from anything other than questions. John Burnham, question, if repeating the same action expecting a different result, field testing in physics, is considered insanity, why is this why shaman is translated as fire mind? So many assumptions in that. So let's just do a lesson on assumptions. Everything in the universe, in your experience, is based on an assumption. Gravity. Believing that you will fall off a cliff is an assumption. You can go try and prove it. It's an actual assumption that other people have proven. But yes, if I pick up my glasses and let them go, I am assuming that they're going to fall into my hand. Okay, well they fell on my hand. So it's a good assumption. But we live our lives with so many false assumptions or incorrect assumptions or half-truth assumptions. And your question is filled with them. And I want to help you think more clearly than that. So what people say, doing the same thing expecting a different result is insanity. There's some truth to that. If I keep touching a hot fire with my finger, and every time I do it burns my hand, and if I keep doing it expecting it to be different, that is a form of insanity. So you're trying to put two things together and say, why is this and why is that, and all these different, what is this shit? What are you asking me? There's nothing in that question. Okay? Why is shaman translated as fire mind? Who translates it as fire mind? Whoever does that is using bullshit linguistics. I can see what they did. They took the word Sha and Man. Man is the Germanic word for moon and mind and human being. It's also an Indo-European root word. The word shaman is not from an Indo-European language. So this is somebody fucking around with sound and trying to be cute and clever and throwing things together and says shaman means fire mind. It doesn't mean that. It means priest. Which is why there's no such thing as shamanism. Because shaman is the Siberian Mongolian word for priest. That's all it means. Okay? Too much thinking, trying too hard there. And if you had watched more of my videos and read my books, you would have already known that and you wouldn't have asked that question. So please, put more time and effort into my teachings. Then you can ask me questions that are going to excite me and make me want to help you. Instead of get cocky and want to chop your legs off and make you look stupid. And then you've got here like the mescalito cactus. Where in my teaching have I ever said that I, number one, endorse using mescalito or practice it? It's really disrespectful to me to come on to my channel with that. To come on with your own agenda. It doesn't endear me to you. It doesn't make me want to answer your questions. Okay, dude with a hat. Question. While doing the Om Namah Shivaya mantra on healing the ancestors facing southeast, I was terrified by what I saw and literally was shocked out of the mantra. Did I do it wrong? I would say you did it right. That sounds like you had an experience. I'm not saying you should do it again, but, you know. Now, did I tell you to go into the southeast or did I tell you to go into the southwest? First off, the southeast is not the realm of the ancestors. Now, it may be in your chart, because astrology.thunderwizard.com, depending on where the planet is, you know, that'll tell me. And sometimes I will have people facing southeast to do, you know, different, where, you know, not Venus, but another planet. Like for me, you know, Mars, if I want to worship Mars, I face southeast, and that's in my chart. So did that come from your chart, or did I misspeak and tell you to face southeast? To face the ancestors is the southwest. But still, there should have been no problem facing southeast and doing Om Namah Shivaya. That should not have brought about a terrifying and shocking thing. So I'm not saying you did anything wrong. It makes me very interested. I would want to talk to you on the phone and ask you a bunch of questions. So I don't think you did anything wrong. I think you had an experience, and you might want to think about whether or not to keep doing that. Maybe there are other ways to help your ancestors than that. But I know that that's based on something I suggested that you do. All right, so NVT Chef, please put questions so I know you're asking a question. Okay? Okay, and if you're going to ask a question, ask it. Use it like a subject and an object. And I know it's hard and it takes time, but I want to be able to read it and read something that makes sense. You know, don't just throw something out there. You astral project or train lucidity. You discuss the subject. maybe teach the practices at all. They're ancient practices, so I'm going to mute you, my friend. You're not asking me a question. I don't know what you're doing. So I'm really only interested in people who have an honest question for me. If you don't like my channel, go somewhere else. All right. Michael, question. How do you find out what is your spiritual number? When did I say that there's such a thing as everybody has a spiritual number? These are not things I teach. Jacob Albright, question. When you do a chart, do you go down the exact minute of birth? Yes. I need your exact minute of birth because your ascendant changes every 15 minutes. That 1 minute difference can throw you in a completely different ascendant, which will change the houses, completely change your chart around. Yep, okay, no more questions. I'm going to go on a short break. I'll come back and maybe I'll have something to say. Maybe I won't. Maybe there'll be a couple more questions, but I will be back.
Misty morning, clouds in the sky. Without warning, a wizard walks by. Casting its shadow, weaving a spell. Long gray clothes, twinkling bell. Never talking, just keeps walking. 'Cause in his magic. Evil power disappears. Demons worry when the wizard is near. He turns tears into joy. Everyone's happy when the wizard walks by. Never talking, just keep walking. 'Cause it is magic. Sun is shining, not to come by. All the people give a happy sigh. The earth passed by, given a sign. That's all the people feeling so fine.
Okay, we're back, and I did not accidentally mute you. Okay, so let's see if there are any last-minute questions. I don't think there is. Nope, no more questions. Wait, I don't see any more questions. So that's it. I don't got nothing else to say other than wish me a happy trip. I'm going to be gone for at least 2 weeks. I may or may not. I'm not bringing my computer. I don't have a laptop. I'm going to bring my iPad. And if I figure out how to do videos on my iPad, I will send out some live videos to you guys. So other than that, wish me all the best. I will try and stay in touch with anybody who purchases any of these. I will try and stay in touch via email in order to give you what you need. But anyway, that's it. Thank you. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, or maybe sooner. Who knows? All right, take care.